It is a relatively small settlement of men, known primarily as a stopping point for travelers en route to greater destinations. Lying at the crossroads of two great travelways of Middle-earth, this village would have a history far longer than its humble status would indicate. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover the history of Bree. While events in and around Bree would largely be recorded in the Third Age, it would be founded thousands of years earlier, in either the First or Second Age. By their own accounts, Bree was founded during the Elder Days, also known as the First Age. However, in the appendices, we are told it may have come later. We are told the men of Bree are descended from men who did not migrate all the way to Beleriand in the middle of the First Age. These groups of men are what are referred to as middlemen, later known as pre-Númenóreans. These ancestors of the Bree-landers would dwell in the northern White Mountains, in the lands of what would later be known as Rohan. They would actually dwell here for quite some time. This would only change during the Dark Years, the years following Sauron's defeat in Eriador, where he dominates most of the east and south of Middle-earth. During this time, some men of the White Mountains would come to worship Sauron out of fear. For instance, those who would one day become the Oathbreakers. Others would migrate northward to escape the spreading darkness. They would make their way to the Barrow Downs before finally settling the lands around Bree Hill. In either case, the men of Bree would long dwell in their village in Eriador, outlasting events of the world both great and terrible. After Númenor falls, and Elendil founds the kingdom of Arnor, both Bree and its surrounding area, known as bree-land, becomes part of this new kingdom. Along with the village of Bree, bree-land includes the villages of Stadel, Arquette, and Combe. As a result of joining Arnor, the Bree-landers adopt Westron, or the Common Tongue, as their native language, giving up their old one. Given its location at the intersection of the Great Road going east and west, and the Greenway going north and south, Bree would become an important village for travelers. These famous roads run for many long miles, connecting Gondor to Arnor and Lindon to Rivendell and beyond. In 861 of the Third Age, when its king Eärendil dies, Arnor is split among his three sons. The splinter realms of Arthedain, Cardolan, and Rhudaur are formed. At this time, it is likely that Bree-land would have belonged to Arthedain, as its villages lied to the north of the Great Road. That being said, we are also told in the appendices that Amon Sul and the Palantir housed there were a point of contention among the realms. We don't know if this disputed land would stretch as far as Bree, but they were certainly placed very close to this point of tension. The next major change for Bree would come around the year 1300. After fleeing the darkness growing near their lands in the Vales of Anduin, halflings would come to Eriador. We are told that many would settle in Bree, and while most would migrate a few hundred years later and found the Shire, there would continue to be hobbits in Bree throughout the remainder of the Third Age and beyond. As a result, Bree would become one of the most unique settlements in all Middle-earth. While there would be instances of different races living near each other, like Eregion and Khazad-dûm, Dale and Erebor, or Rohan and the Glittering Caves, Bree is the rare instance where two races live side by side in the same village. According to the Bree Hobbits, one of the things most synonymous with their race would actually originate in Bree. For the Hobbits of Bree held that they were the first to enjoy the art of smoking pipeweed. This plant, which was likely brought up the Greenway from Gondor, would grow on the southern slopes of Bree Hill, and it is likely here where Tolbold Hornblower first discovered the leaf, and would later introduce it in the Shire. From these southern slopes of Bree, there would be made a brand of pipeweed called Southlynch, though Barlam and Butterbur would note that its quality was no match for that of the South Farthing. Some have theorized that it would have been around the time of the Hobbits' arrival that the Prancing Pony Inn was built. given the fact that it had rooms specifically built for hobbits, though we can't rule out that these rooms may have been an addition or renovation. After all, it is said the prancing pony had been kept by the Butterbur family from time beyond record. Speaking of the Butterbur name, it exemplifies a unique tradition of the Bree-landers. Their surnames tend to come from plants and herbs. We will later find characters such as Appledore, Goatleaf, Heathertoes, Pickthorn, Rushlight, Thistlewool, and Ferny. Eventually, Bree's time as part of a kingdom would end. While Bree and its people were no doubt affected by, and perhaps even fought in, Arnor's wars with the Witch King, there are no documented battles or skirmishes in the area of Bree-land. In 1945 of the Third Age, the Witch King finally succeeds in destroying Arthedain, the final remnant of Arnor. While the Lord of the Nazgul would be driven out by reinforcements from Gondor and Glorfindel from Rivendell, the kingdom would not recover. Instead, the remnants of the Dunedain would exist in the wild as the Rangers of the North, and Bree would continue to operate as its own village through the centuries to come. Not only was it common to see men and hobbits in a place such as the Prancing Pony, but also dwarves. For in 2802, the dwarven exiles of Erebor would settle in the Blue Mountains, ensuring regular travelers on the Great Road. One such dwarf would pass through Bree in March 2941, meeting the wizard Gandalf in the process. Together, Thorin and Gandalf realize their common problem, the dragon Smaug. This pivotal meeting would lead directly to the quest of Erebor, in which Smaug is slain and Erebor reclaimed. In Tolkien's abandoned rewrite of The Hobbit, Thorin's company make a stop at the Prancing Pony on their way to Rivendell. While it would often seem isolated from the greater events of the world, that time would soon end. As early as 2953, Saruman the White, who had by now long desired the One Ring for himself, started having spies in Bree. One such spy is a squint-eyed southerner from Dunland, who would make purchases of pipeweed and other goods on the wizard's behalf to send to Isengard. Ultimately, this spy, rumored to be a half-orc or goblin man, would be discovered by the Nazgul near Tharbad and is turned to their service. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin would encounter the Southerner in the Prancing Pony the night of September 29, 3018. He and another spy, Bill Ferny, would witness Frodo disappear into thin air when accidentally putting on the One Ring. Fortunately, Frodo would also meet the Ranger Strider, who would safeguard him and his companions through the night. During their stay at the Prancing Pony, the Hobbits would encounter Nob, a Hobbit employee of Butterbur's. Nob and his fellow employee Bob are seen attending to tasks like serving food, minding ponies in the stables, and tending to guests. It is Nob who assists the Hobbits in disguising their beds and would also keep watch that night. Still, the inn is attacked, the beds torn to shreds. Unlike in most adaptations, this was likely not the work of the Ringwraiths, for Aragorn earlier that very night had said to openly attack a village in such a manner was not their way, meaning the attackers could well have been Bill Ferny, the Southerner, or other men serving the Nazgul. In the attack, the stables of the Prancing Pony were also opened, and all the animals inside had run away. Frodo would then buy a half-starved pony from Bill Ferny for 12 silver pennies. In turn, Sam would name the pony Bill. In another parting shot, Sam would throw an apple at Bill Ferny's head as he was spying on them. Aragorn, Frodo, and the Hobbits would then make their way to nearby Weathertop, once known as Amon Sul. While the Nazgul would no longer trouble Bree, their troubles were far from over. With war coming to Gondor, the Dunedain Rangers go south to serve their king. With these secret guardians gone, the lands of Eriador, including Bree and the Shire, are susceptible to the evil that comes. Ruffians under the service of the wizard Saruman raid Bree in early 3019. Barliman later says he believes they were let into the settlement by Bill Ferny and Harry Goatleaf. For when the Bree-landers are victorious in defending their homes, the two men flee with the ruffians. The ruffians would travel to Chetwood, operating as bandits. Thus, the great road that traveled through Bree was no longer safe. In response, the citizens of Bree would lock up their homes early and would station many guards around their villages. It is during these dark days that Butterbur would realize how much the Rangers had done for him and his community. Not only were there now robbers, but wolves would howl around the fences, and dark shapes were in the woods, dreadful things that made the blood run cold. Thankfully, on October 28, 3019, Frodo, Gandalf, and the Hobbits would return to Bree, bringing glad tidings to Barlaman at the Prancing Pony. The Rangers had returned, and there was now a king once again in Gondor, who would refound the northern kingdom of Arnor and bring prosperity to the lands of Eriador once more. Butterbur seems to like this news, though he hopes the king will leave Bree alone.
"He will," said Gandalf. "He knows it and loves it."
"Does he now?"
said Butterbur, looking puzzled.
"Though I'm sure I don't know why he should. Sitting in his big chair up in his great castle hundreds of miles away, and drinking wine out of a golden cup, I shouldn't wonder. What's the pony to him or mugs of beer? Not but what my beer's been good, Gandalf. It's been uncommon good since you came in autumn of last year and put a good word on it, and that's been a comfort in trouble, I will say."
"Ah," said Sam, "but he says your beer is always good."
"He says?"
"Of course he does. He's Strider, the chief of the Rangers. Haven't you got that into your head yet?" It went in at last, and Butterbur's face was a study in wonder. The eyes in his broad face grew round, and his mouth opened wide, and he gasped.
"Strider?"
he exclaimed when he got back his breath.
"Him with a crown and all and a golden cup? Well, what are we coming to?"
"Better times, for Bree at any rate," said Gandalf.
Indeed, better times would come for Bree. Aragorn re-establishes the northern kingdom of Arnor, and no doubt the village and the Prancing Pony would benefit greatly from the increased traffic on the two great roads, once again connecting the two realms of men to one another, and to the many peoples of Middle-earth. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Swirled Traveler, Matthew Jeffrey, Viking Lord, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.